follow, let us know what you think. And then we move on.
We
So,
move on.
all right, this one is going to come from me because, well, basically, I'm going to make it. Corey found it, so I'm not. I'm not going to take
It's
any
all good.
claim for the fact that I found this first because when I turned around a few weeks ago and we were talking about Jeff Bezos and his company Blue Origin sending him into space, and the week before that we were talking about Richard Branson and Virgin
Mhm.
Galactic, them going into
Yep.
space, and we're trying to find a way to figure out how they were going to qualify these people to be quote unquote astronauts. And I immediately said, you know what? They're not astronauts, they're PassTronauts. Okay, meaning they're only passengers. They didn't really do anything to earn the ride into space. They just took the trip, right? Well, almost immediately after I was sending Corey that night, I was like, are we going to spell it PAS or PASS? How are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Because we're coining the phrase PassTronauts. And he
Yep.
basically sent this back to me and said, you don't have to. Because it looks like the FAA has done it for you. Because on the very same day that Jeff Bezos made his historic trip into space, the FAA changed the policy on who qualifies for commercial astronaut wings. Okay. And this is
Can't make this stuff
amazing,
up.
right? You can't make it up. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful because I mean, if in the essence of if you're looking at this article, this is coming from CNN. Okay, the FAA changed the policy on who qualifies for commercial astronauts, and they did it. And I don't know if it was to spite him. I don't know what the deal was, but they did this for the first time in 17 years. Okay, and this is on the dawn of the precipice of what is called the space tourism industry. So basically, as saying that, I wonder if Richard Branson can even qualify because he was predating this, and maybe he could apply, but it doesn't because they made one very specific change. And that change, as Corey can allude to, is the activities that they have to perform. And what was that activity that they said now has to be so important?
Yeah, so basically, just as Mike's saying, effective the 20th of July,
Hmm.
FAA issued one critical criteria for exactly what Mike's talking about. It says, and quote, the crew members must demonstrate activities during flight that were essential to public safety or contributed to human space flight safety.
And that does not include fastening a seatbelt. So you're now
So,
pastronauts.
yeah. So, yeah, exactly. And so, exactly as this, a lot of these, not a lot of these, there's not that many, but these companies we just talked about, they
Mm,
are space tourism companies
right.
currently. They, some people will certainly say, and I know I've heard it, that Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin have sent up, some small projects in the previous flights before he went up, okay, all right, but there's nobody on board. They're not
They're
astronauts.
not doing
There's
anything.
just cargo, so, right? So yeah, if you're gonna be going on some of these flights here, where we know from watching these, and you're only in zero G
Hmm.
4 minutes or short amount of time, um, and you're just kind of floating around the cabin, which I'm jealous of, right? Sure,
Sure,
okay,
sure, sure.
but getting back to why we're talking about it, that unfortunately for them does not make them qualify for astronaut wings. So, yeah, I did want to point out because yeah, Mike said it literally on that show that day. You heard it first here from right out of Mike's mouth. What are these? There's just astronauts. They're not really astronauts,
No, and
because we know at the time they were gonna get their wings because the pilots that tested Starship 2, or not Starship 2, sorry, the one from Richard
Spaceship
Branson,
Two.
those Spaceship 2,
Yeah.
those guys, those two pilots who flew that space plane in a way, or suborbital plane, up to those suborbital flights, they get their wings.
And they should, but wait a second.
And
And there's a
and they were
difference.
test pilots.
That's
That
correct.
I agree. No, I'm not
Yeah.
discounting them at all.
No, no, they
But
earned it.
yeah.
They earned it.
Mhm.
So the guys, so but basically, what Corey's saying is that the two guys up in front, Virgin Galactic, even though they went up on July 11th, and that was predating what the FAA rule changes was, it doesn't make a difference because they safely operated the aircraft. Which also
Mhm.
brings up an interesting conversation that we had last week, which was you get a better ride, I think, on Virgin Galactic because you're actually participating in a different type of space travel initially, right? But they also
Yeah.
went on to say that the four crew members on board, okay, Blue Origin's first crewed flight, did even less. And I don't know if that was like a little bit of a jab here in the article from CNN. And they said, pre-launch and everything else that they briefing that they did, they really didn't do anything except sit in a seat and go up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now ironically, this comes back to another point that I wonder who watches our channel because it's just one of those things
I
where
know.
we sit back and we say it
No.
to ourselves. We're like, how can that be that these people are really going to become astronauts? They're really not. They're space tourists. They're really not in that respect. And look, now it comes up for discussion about what do we open up in the new realm of astronauts, because if people are going to suddenly be working in space, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say 10 years from now, there is a civilian space station. Okay. It's funded completely by private corporations, and they send average everyday Joes up there to do work in space. Are these people going to be considered astronauts because they've just simply locked in for a week's work up in space, and they might have performed like scientific experiments, but they might not have contributed to the actual space flight and space safety because they're simply just going up in there and clocking hours to do experiments? I wonder what the case is going to be for them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I see exactly what you're thinking about. I mean, initially when we had talked about it that day, I was thinking, okay, so I know there's some companies that wanted to do like suborbital cargo transportation
Mhm.
between cities for whatever it might be, but cities like across the world.
Right.
And you can obviously get places quicker if you can get up to suborbital altitudes and then, move across maybe about around the Earth, and you can actually get around quite quickly. Obviously, that way, just
Mhm.
as you can imagine. Are those people would be in service of a company? It's the same question. They're your suborbital space plane pilot, let's
Mhm.
say in a decade or more from now or whenever. Do you get astronaut wings? I don't know.
Well, look,
I don't know.
here's the funny part. You could take Carmen Line and all that they said about the Blue Origin launch and say, Carmen Line really meant nothing because recognized in space, little did we know there was someone that was hitting a button on send in an email at the FAA that basically said, nah, null and
Yeah.
void because Carmen Line means nothing to us. Did they operate and participate in a safe and manner that was contributing? And hey, it's what the FAA does, and it's completely within their right to do because
Of course, yeah.
technically, I mean, they don't own space. So if they want to be recognized by another space organization, that's possible, I guess. But the other part of it would be that they launched from US soil and they landed back on US soil. So I guess they have to abide by the rules. But at what point does airspace become not your airspace anymore?
Well, that's literally that's what they say about the Kármán line. Literally, it's that like sovereign airspace is below that.
Right.
But again, as we talked about on the other show, some people say it's like 50 miles. Some people it's like 63 miles. Like, it depends who you talk to. So,
We can't even get
or
our,
of
our
course,
crap right
the
in space.
the nation below it also have something to say about it, of course.
I'm
But
sure.
I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting to follow because
Interesting. So now,
I I don't know.
here's another
I
thing.
don't know.
Who becomes the first space tourist, okay, to orbit the Earth?
Yeah,
Someone
that's
that's going to be
because you and
another
I
one.
talked about that briefly on the other show too. We were
Mhm.
like, these people that go up and then like spend a few minutes away of low gravity or zero G depending, and then just come back down. Okay, that's certainly cool,
Yeah, that
and I'm
is.
not saying anything about that. But what about, yeah, exactly as you said, if you get high enough and fast enough that you can do an orbit, are you still a tourist?
I don't
I
know.
mean, according to this definition, yeah, this has nothing to do with orbits.
Of course,
This
of
is
course.
just, what you do in orbit or what you do on the flight, not even in space, but
Right.
on the flight. So I guess no. I mean,
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I'm not we might talk about it on another show coming up this week, but also one of the flight pilots from Virgin Galactic actually was abruptly looked like he was canned recently
yeah,
too. So
yeah, that is, yeah,
we only read about it just a little bit before this, and we
yeah,
were like, you know
yeah.
what? It actually requires us to do a little bit more investigating on it before we say it. I
Hmm.
know it's public knowledge, and he tweeted something out, but we're not even going to get into it yet because that's not the
Hmm.
type of
Yeah,
thing we want to
yeah,
talk about.
yeah.
Especially when it comes to the pilot's point of view, because there could be lots of reasons why stuff like that happens with an operator. So anyhow, hey, I thought PassTronauts. We're making our own T-shirts. We're making our own, it's funny if you guys have not figured out, but the actual abbreviation for this show is NYASS, not your average show. And we're thinking that if we do actually make a brand or something, that'll be the brand name. But we're gonna have to start making some shirts that say, you're only a pastronaut. You didn't really make it to space. I don't know. We're gonna come up with something clever, and that'll be some of the first
Yeah.
merchandise that we sell to you guys because we're probably also looking to go the Patreon route and all that other stuff. Lots more to
Mhm.
discuss, but it's coming. We're thinking about it.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah,
guys,
that'd be gonna have a lot of fun with those.
yeah, lots of fun. And this is just interesting enough to discuss. And let us know what you think in the comments below. We know a lot
Mhm.
of you watch the videos, and we know a lot of you don't like them. And we do appreciate the fact that you watch, but that extra like gets us a lot more recognition. And one little comment below even puts it above the edge one more. And if you want to see this show grow, help us out a little bit because we appreciate it so much, you guys. So thank you for that. All right.